There's a video that I came across on Instagram, and it's talking about.
You download it?
Of course he didn't.
I didn't. It's easy though. It's right. It'll pop up. But I still have to download it. I'm missing the point. I know. I forgot to download it. But there's a producer that's talking about the concept of having a conversation about the concept of complete records and just the creative process in terms of what happens behind the scenes when people get together and start working on records. And it's a very interesting conversation that we're having. Gino The Ghost is the producer. I looked him up. He's Grammy Award winning. He's worked with a lot of artists. But check out what he says about the process, the creative process, and what he's seen as a producer that's been established and been making records for a while. See what you guys think about this. Just the overall feel for what he says and also the impact.
When I go in a session, I'm not making like a mid-tempo. I'm not going to create something cool and artsy. I need to create a hit because I need to make money and I need this song to get chosen by the label, and they're not going to pick the song if it doesn't have tempo. It doesn't sound like a hit. It doesn't sound sticky. The album is now comprised of, is this a single? Is this a single? They're all trying to be singles, which makes the overall product just, when you used to listen to albums back in the day, you would listen to that front to back, and it was like a story, and it was cohesive. And that's why albums like, certain, like like Good Kid, Mad City, and those albums are like, they tell a story and they're so cool. And even like old Beyonce albums and like, Jay-Z albums, they tell a story. Well, today, even Beyonce albums, it's just all hits. They got to be all singles, So
first of all, I think it's dope to hear a producer or somebody that's from on the back end that's actually working on the records and hears what the requirements are, the label pressures are, to talk about what they tell them when they come into studios, because the single thing, as music gets shorter and projects get shorter, seems like that's the direction. But my question is, one, do you guys feel like that has become the thing? And two, do producers have a responsibility to go against what they're being told for the sake of the bag that he talked about? The fact that he's got to provide for his family, he's got to do what he's got to do. Does somebody have to debunk this in order for it to possibly start to change? Because I'm not here to count somebody's pocket. You got to do what you got to do. So far be it for me to say that. But do you think there are producers or people out there that might be able to say, nah, I just don't want to be a part of this?
Yes. When I listen to what The Alchemist did, and if you are part of our Patreon, you'll see what The Alchemist did with Big Sean.
Yeah.
I don't hear a hit there. I hear a song that has a nice vibe. If you're a Big Sean fan, you'll be very happy with it. If you're an Alchemist fan, you'll be happy with it. If you're just like a certain kind of hip hop, but I don't hear a hit. Now, I don't think that's what they were going for. This is an opportunity for Big Sean to get some things off his heart and tell a story and tell us how he's actually feeling. He's not thinking, okay, this is going to be as big as Marvin Gaye and Chardonnay or I Don't F With You. This is an opportunity for him to do something that is more true to himself. And I think there are artists who have the opportunity to do that with certain artists. Back when I was, a little closer to the radio and records game, and people would ask me, do I like something? Like I said, don't ask me if I like it. Ask me if I think it'll work. Do I think this will work? No. Do I like it? Yes. Now, on the other hand, we talked about Ice Spice a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Everything that I hear from her are swings, and unfortunately, she took 10 swings and it's 10 misses. Yeah. These are songs that I don't think are particularly good, and I don't think they'll work either. And so, there are producers who are here to make hits. When you get with, depending on the time, and, if you said, okay, I'm going to get Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, I'll even take it back to then, you're hiring them because you want to get on the radio. It will take it a few years further than that. If you enlist Jermaine Dupri or, Puff Daddy and whoever he was working with, you're trying to get on the radio.
Timbaland.
Yeah, Timbaland.
Yeah. Pharrell.
Now, even though his prices were high, we have this regard for DJ Premier. I mean, that's what you would call, if you will, the street single. Okay. And that's when there was a thing. Okay, you have Juicy on one side, and then you have Unbelievable on the B side. And so there was a place for that, but now
your hip hop cred single.
Yeah.
Good point.
So now it's just a thing where it's like, okay, either you're going to be the record that's a vibe, and you're going to create a situation where this is my, for lack of a better term, credibility record. And then this next one, this is going to be the one I'm trying to get in the club. It may not be as complex. It might be, $1 Million Baby. I'm going for that lane. I'm swinging as hard. I'm swinging for the fences. I'm trying to make a hit. Something's going to play in the clubs, ring off, and I can maybe get a commercial endorsement from.
What if I told you that what you just said, there's a devil's advocate part to that, because Big Sean and Alchemist have the cachet to make this choice to do this.
Oh no,
everybody might not.
No, that's what
everybody
I'm saying.
has no.
That's what I wanted, Lone. That's why
some people don't have to
that.
rap to eat the way some people they're rapping and producing to eat.
That's why I said that.
But are they really?
Jump in, Lone.
It's just like I get that point, but there's a difference between fast food and food that's good for you, right? And
True.
You know, you mentioned the fact that Ice Spice has been trying this formulaic approach and she's been striking out.
Right.
From an artistic standpoint, you can make art and creative stuff that you really like if you're an artist, and you can give it to the fan base of people that appreciate you for your art.
Mm-hmm.
You can try different things that potentially may go down a hit path, as long as they're still you. Or you can be somebody who I would consider, and the argument that I always make, and people like me would always make, that there are artists out there that don't really make art for the sake of making art. They're making art for the sake of commerce, and they're making art for the sake of trying to grab as many people as possible. Where if we're looking at this on like the Venn diagram or whatever, that's always the highest piece, as opposed to certain artists. It's always like, let me make this piece of art, and if I can make this pop up and blow up a little bit by by balancing that together, then I think different artists approach this in a different way. Okay. But I think this has always been formulaic. I feel like the old albums from back in the day were also formulaic because you always had the hit. You always had, they were crafting albums in a very specific way.
The girl record, the that.
The West Coast record.
The difference now is that now in the streaming and the algorithm that we are operating under with the TikTok and realistically the reels and the shorts, is that every single song on an album has a potential to blow up in that particular way. And people are trying to catch lightning in a bottle on every single song as opposed to craft a piece of art. And again, this goes back to my comment about the Ice Spice and Sexy Reds and the difference between an artist and a content creator. To me, I look at it like that. I think it's been formulaic. I think it's more formulaic. I think it's more in our face about how much we can tell what the formula is right now, just because it's a lot more obvious. But even back then, like even when I was making records and you were making records, even 10, 15 years ago, we were like, well, we still need one of these. Or
we did say that.
We need one of these. And we did. But did we really? Not really, because, sure, you could say that, but, depending on how you want to round your project out in whatever way. But a lot of that stems from the formulaic approach of wanting to cover all the bases on an album because you want something that could potentially reach this crowd or potentially reach this crowd or potentially do this. So I think the formulaic approach has always been there. I just think that we've just lost a lot of the well-roundedness of what makes an album from a mainstream popular level.
Think about the time frame of the records that he talked about. He said, what, Good Kid, Mad City? What else did he mention?
It's crazy how you can say old Beyonce record.
Old Beyonce record.
Crazy. Right? Beyonce, her first album was 2003 or 4.
Yeah, but just think about it when you take about the group.
That was the late 90s.
Yeah, so Beyonce's been famous for almost 30 years at this point.
I think I agree with Lone from the standpoint of the formula perhaps has been in place. It just looks different now. Plus our access is different now to what we can see. So I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on there. But I do agree with this gentleman here as it relates to a lot of the projects not having what we'll call, I guess, the lasting power because they're so watered down. Everybody's in a rat race. So if everybody's in a rat race, everybody's doing the same thing. You're not going to get Michael stands way out.
That's an anomaly.
My point exactly. It stands way out because of the integrity and the attention to detail that Lone was talking about that can happen. That's why it stands out so far now.
He created a piece of artwork for art's sake.
I think he wasn't thinking, okay, I got this for the strip club. This is going to be my West Coast record. This is going to
I think he kind of was.
Maybe he was.
He's got a couple records, but people don't give him a chance
but
because
it's not
of what
at the forefront. It's not like he's not compromising. He's not saying, you know what? I'm actually just going to release 12 of these records because I know I can get more streams.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Terry.
I think this dude is actually literally just speaking from the producer for hire point of view, though. So it's like, this is his job. So like, my job is to create a sound for this record label. They're looking for this specific type of sound. So this is all they're going to look for from me. So this is the bag I need to be in. Now, my opinion on that is do that, cater to that, because that's how you eat.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever you want to make yourself. I mean, you can have an artist that you bring up. You can do your own joint where you produce and mix whatever you want to put out there. But at the end of the day, this is your job. So you got to clock in and make these records for these record labels.
Yep.
If they don't pop off like they want them to pop off,
That's
I
true.
mean, you got your front end,
Right.
but you're not eating like you would have rather, like you just said, he's a Grammy Award winning
Yeah,
producer.
he is. Yeah, he
so
is.
he's not going to get those residuals like he wants because he's not
Nominated.
necessarily in the bag that he wants to be in.
He's not trying to make
But
album cuts.
Right. He has to make these cuts that this record label is going to pick up. Now, if he doesn't feel comfortable about making that, then that's one of the things why a lot of artists make up an alias. So you can't necessarily tie it back to me, but I'm getting paid for it. So I have this alias name that I'm producing under this name, but it still comes back to me. I think he's more speaking from integrity point of view.
That's the word.
He would prefer to produce things that are a cohesive album, so to speak, that tells a story versus you just want me to send you a whole bunch of upbeat hits and y'all are going to throw all of that against the wall and see what sticks.
Again, it's.
I agree with that.
But
Because the reason I agree with what he said is because it comes off as, I'm sorry, Long, that it's tugging at him the way he's talking
That's
about
what
it.
That's what it.
You
felt
see what I'm
like to
saying?
me.
Like
Yeah,
it's like
no,
he's
for sure.
pulling at him a little bit. Go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say this. I haven't been able to say it in the last few weeks, but that's capitalism.
Yeah.
It's big business, literally. Like saying no. You can't be creative. We need this formula.
Yeah.
And we need this formula from you. And if you can't create this, then we will go find somebody else that can do it.
And then this also goes back to the tides have turned to where you don't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to go through a record label to do my thing.
Right.
And it also depends on the artist that you're working with, the audience that they're looking to reach. I mean, we listen to a lot of artists that their main goal and focus is not to make a catchy tune to get on the social media site or to be on the radio, even for that matter.
True.
So if you're trying to work directly with those people and you know that, then you know that that's going to come with the territory. So I actually want to get one of my most popular songs with this artist because they're bubbling right now.
Right.
So I got to stick to the script on that. But then I can work with this other artist that I really like, and we can build and make something, create something that's a story like the albums he brought up.
Yeah.
No, that's real.
Yeah. I don't disagree with him at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't disagree with what he's saying.
I mean, I knew you would be able to speak to it because you've approached projects. So that's why I was very curious to hear what your opinion would be because
Yeah, I have a formulaic approach to everything that I make. Every single project is formulaic. I feel like that's normal. You know what I mean? But I think there's another thing. But I have an artistic formulaic approach as opposed to a commerce one. And I think that's a different approach.
Yeah.
So.
And when you're in a
like that.
position like this guy, like he said, he's a Grammy Award winning artist. So, producer, technically an artist.
Yeah.
So they're going to reach out to him because he has that accolade. So that gives him an edge. So in turn for him to, try to make more of those hits, he has to kind of stick to the script. So
Yeah.
Look, he's looking, like I said, he's looking for placements. He's looking for the songs that he produces to be singles
right
on these major releases.
That's that game.
Now if you're, Common and Pete Rock with the album they just put out,
right.
they ain't thinking
you're
about
not
that.
thinking about, okay, let's go ahead and do one for the radio. Like, no, because there's nothing on there.
Nah, because if one sticks and goes to the radio, then that's a win for them. But
Yeah.
that's not their main goal or intention.
And plus, there's not a machine that's trying to be like, okay, hey, we got this Common and Pete Rock radio, and maybe we could schedule a flyaway to this, and we could, because I'm sorry, I know there's no payola is not a thing.
Right.
I'll say that out loud. Payola is not a thing. They got rid of that. But there's so many ways around it.
Oh, yeah.
I love that did they long.
Did they?
I don't know because you know what I literally
What's the
being
new
at
word
work,
for it? What's the?
Well, yeah. What's the new thing?
I'm gonna just keep playing this song all day because literally when I'm at work and I just got the radio turned on,
Yeah.
they will play the Meg Thee Stallion, what's her name, Glorilla, and Cardi B song will come on every 5 minutes. Sometimes it'll come on right
It's a
behind
different
each
type
other.
of payola. It's corporate payola.
Or even I take that back. Not even that situation. So anytime something new comes out on Friday, they will keep playing that song.
Yep.
So that artist label or whatever, they're not going to call it payola, but they did something to put that in rotation to where that plays every 15 minutes on a new release day.
Look,
So what you telling
and it may
me?
not ever play on the radio again. It's almost like
And the
they're
labels-
testing it with y'all to see if y'all like it.
And the labels are in bed with Spotify too. Like it's
So
all
what
this-
you telling me is something going on. That's just not somebody showing love at the radio
Guys,
station.
let me tell you something. When radio stations, when you're like, okay, this is how radio sometimes program. I'll pull the sheet back just a little bit, so you can see Oz and what he's doing back there. And you'll be like, at the end of the programming block, when they're going into the commercial break, it was like new music from, and you're like, okay, new music from said artist. Like a new song doesn't get added unless it's in a way. Unless they say, okay, this is the new Maxwell. Like there's not as much, greasing of palms to get the new Maxwell or Alicia Keys or Luther Vandross song. Like I said, that's how long ago I was in radio. But if it's a song and you're like, oh, who is this? And then you listen to it, be like, oh yes, and so and so radio station is doing a special contest and a flyaway. That means there has been a corporate push and there has been checks written. You can't. But the difference is, when I talk to the old jocks, who they used to just the reps used to just come around and pay your light bill.
Oh, okay.
Or they must used to come around and just give you cash because there was no such thing as BDS until the 90s. So what you submitted as your playlist and how many spins something got, it was just on a piece of paper that you faxed into the radio. So you might not have played none of those records, but it's just about what you turn in.
Right.
There was no such thing as, we're used to the SoundScan era.
Yeah.
And so that used to be all on paper, and what you said was sold, that's what was sold.
Yeah.
Now if it was something like when Michael Jackson Thriller was out and like people were running out of these records, like you couldn't deny what was going on. But, there have been some other records where you're like, if you dig in and really do the paperwork, it might have been a top 30 record, but it wasn't a top 20 record. So and one of the things where I think that is just full of corruption. And like I said, maybe it's because it's such new media and the people in Washington don't know, or the people on a local level don't know. I still think payola is rampant through streaming.
It just looks different.
Absolutely.
I think you can just go up there with a paper bag full of money.
There was.
And and no one's going to say anything.
Lon's wheels are turning.
And no one's going to say anything because like they're so worried about people going up to program directors and dropping off cash.
Yeah.
They don't realize it's like, look, shout to B Swift when he broke this down at the G-Note last year for Treese. He said radio hasn't broken a record in 10 years. So what you have now is these playlists. Like, who's to say who's going up there and writing checks to make sure that someone is a part of these playlists? And when, like I said, people say, oh, they hit the button on that. And I see it every weekend because when I turn on the automated system, so there's music played outside of my establishment, I can do it 3 nights in a row and there'll be a certain song that plays first every night.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing.
Been paid for.
Rap, what's the one on Spotify? Rap Caviar?
Yeah.
Yeah, something going on if you get on like
remember we talked
At
about
some point in
at
time.
one point, yeah.
It's
Is it different? Probably different now.
Remember we talked about how Lil Nas X, that they try to hit the button on him?
Yeah.
And I just remember that weekend, every time I turned on my music automation service, that's supposed to be random, they had that Lil Nas X song playing. Now the thing is, it didn't stick and nobody cared, but
yeah, they'll keep playing it. Like the same thing happened. Like the song that I say comes on all the time.
Yeah,
literally started on one of those Fridays. So this is a Meg Thee Stallion song featuring Cardi B and Glorilla.
Now after a certain
they kept
point,
playing it. They kept playing it that Friday. It stuck. Everybody liked it.
Yeah.
So now they added it throughout the week 3 and 4 times on the hour.
Radio is set up to where basically that song is probably played every 35 to 45 minutes.
Right. It's faster than that.
Because like it's set up to where, say you go get, you take your lady out, get a little something to eat. The song that you hear, if you're listening to the radio, which at this point is rare for a lot of people, the song that you hear on the radio station that you're listening to, when you get back in the car after you've had your food and paid for everything, that same song should be playing.
I wouldn't doubt it.
It's set. That's the way it's settled. Because you'll look at like that Meg and Glorilla song. That song is probably played between 85 and 110 times a week on one station.
Yeah, a lot.
So
not Terry Long. What'd you find?
So somebody just mentioned something about streaming, fake streams, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw a TikTok pop up today, actually, and it's in reference to this. Go ahead, flip to the full screen there, Terry, real quick. Yeah. So the Federal Trade Commission announced a final rule that's going to ban fake reviews and testimonials online, which is not quite the same thing of banning fake streams. But I also, the video that I saw also talked about how they are investigating potentially blocking fake streams from a federal level. So you won't, to really combat the idea of fake streaming, both like view bots and all that stuff as well. So this rule will allow the agency to strengthen enforcement, seek civil penalties against violators, and deter AI-generated fake reviews on things.
Oh, that's dope.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, buying positive and negative reviews, insider reviews by consumer testimonials, company-controlled review websites, review suppression, misuse of fake social media indicators. So this is a very interesting thing in the commission.
Dirty out there.
It was a 5-0. So it looks like this is going to somehow come into law, which would be interesting, and I like it.
That's just the tip of the iceberg, though. Like I said, you know,
that's dope right there, Long.
Right now they have all these rules, and this goes back to Alan Freed. You know, with the payola thing, because at one point that wasn't against the law to just take a bag up to the radio station and say, play this. Like,
go watch the James Brown movie.
You know, that was, watch anything about old rock and roll. And, watch Dream Girls, anything. Watch,
Be a record slid with a stack of money behind it.
Bruh,
but now
suitcases.
But see now, like, in my era, I just remember at one point 20 Xboxes showed up to the radio station where I was working.
Got one.
No, that's what made me mad.
That's why you mad.
I wasn't in
That's
any position to help anybody. So they get, all the program directors got anybody who's programmed, they got an Xbox.
Merry Christmas.
Wow. Yep.
All right, man. That's good talks. Good talks. I appreciate Lone on that article too, because I did not know that. So
I had to buy my own Xbox.
Yeah. Also, to add to that, literally his situation is no different than a DJ. Some places you go, you have to spend stuff that you don't necessarily want to spend.
Yeah,
that's just what it is.
Yeah,
and then you can go do your own thing or your mixtapes or whatever like that and do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, this is your hobby, but it's also your job.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you definitely been in that position. I know that for sure.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, you can look. A DJ is just in the club. Oh, you can take a bribe.
Yeah, for sure.
I've said it on the mic. I said, we don't take requests, but we do take bribes.